So for those who grew up in the church, I only have the perspective of what it was like growing up in Pentecostal churches, classical Pentecostal. And I heard a lot of sermons, and so I grew up hearing Esther referred to. And there's that famous verse in the book of Esther where Mordecai is talking to her, and he says to her, "Who knows but that you have been brought into the kingdom for just such a time as this?" And we're always inspired about that. Everybody wants to be that person that's been brought into the kingdom for just such a time as this, believing for God for something big, right? And letting God do that big thing, letting God use you, and that's great. Nothing bad to say about that. But I'm 62 now, and in the last decade, really, I've had a lot of disruptions and a lot of things to derail me at different times and whatever. But the point is that I have spent my life trying to be Esther, trying to be successful. I think my whole life I had that in my mind. I wanted to be successful, be the best at something, I wanted to be good, I wanted to write books, wanted to, just make my mark. And all my life I have felt like I was passed up. I felt like I was invisible. I was always on the outside looking in. I was never part of the main group. Even as a pastor, I was never part of the clique. And so that's been hard for me over the years, feeling like, well, I've got 3 degrees. I've worked hard. I recorded some CDs. I've written 2 books. I've, just worked hard to try and make my mark. And I think I made a little mark in local areas, right? And that's fine, and that's okay, but that's not the American dream, right? That's not the American church goal. But it began to, so I've always put that in terms of being invisible. I've always just felt like I was invisible. No matter what I did, I couldn't, I was never going to be the one. I was never going to be Esther. Never going to be Esther. But it started to dawn on me a few years ago that that it's all right. It's not about being Esther necessarily. It's not about being a success in the world's eyes. Because in the world, in America, you're a success if you're a famous pastor. You're a success if you're a pastor who has a big church, if your church has a lot of money, those kind of things. If your church has a big building, And that's Americanism, is what that is. It's not a scriptural concept. It's an American concept. And so I started to think in terms of, okay, so look, I'm invisible. Embrace it. If God doesn't want me to be a household name, then that's okay. I need to be what God wants me to be. And I found that support in the parable of the talents. Because in that parable, the businessman or the landowner, or however you want to refer to him, he chooses the people that he gives talents to based on their abilities. He knew that the guy he gave 5 talents to was the kind of guy that could handle getting 5 talents and would go and be faithful, and he would invest those 5 talents. And it's not about whether or not those 5 talents in that economy would produce 5 more. It was about the faithfulness to let it do what it could do. He knew the one he gave 3 talents to would do the same at that level. But even the one he gave the 1 talent to, he gave him 1 talent. That was his ability. And even that person didn't follow through. He was afraid. So the point is that God gives each of us based on what he's called us to do. And our job is just to be faithful with what he's given us. And that may mean that no one ever knows our name. We might not ever be what is considered to be successful in American church standards. But it doesn't matter, because the reward is the landowner coming back, or the businessman coming back and saying, hey, you did a good job. You were faithful. You did good. I'll trust you again. I'll give more to you next time. And not about, the landowner, the businessman, he was not expecting the 1 talent guy to find a way to produce 5 talents. He wanted him to do what 1 talent's investment could do. He wanted the one with 3 talents or 2 talents or however many talents, the 5 talents. He wanted them to do what's possible with that. He didn't expect someone to be something that they're not. And so for me, I began to look at that parable, but then also I began to look at this concept of Esther. Everybody wants to be Esther, but Mordecai is the one who recognized Esther's opportunity. It was Mordecai who told her, who knows, but that you've been brought into the kingdom for just such a time as this. It's Mordecai that saw it. He's the one who saw the opportunity. He's the one who saw the need. He's the one who called her out and built her up and inspired her and challenged her. It was Mordecai. And there's something valuable. And I've learned it way too late, and I'm enjoying it now more than ever, but it's important to be Mordecai. When we're younger, we just think in terms of, I got to make my mark. But the older we get, the more we realize the value is in being Mordecai. The challenge is, be Mordecai, find Esther, call her out, help Esther do what it is that God's called her to do. Be that person. It's the Mordecai Principle.